Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Dominic. I'm the marketing lead here at CIISec. We're just going to let people arriving now. So we'll just be starting in about a minute or so, okay? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first CIISec webinar of 2025, where we'll be talking about CPD. We've been joined by Kevin Streater, he's our COO, and Marie Herbert-White, who's head of CPD here at CIISec. The session is being recorded and it will be made available in the next week or so. If you have any questions, if you can use the Q&A function at the top, that would be great. And we have built in some time for Q&A at the end of the session. So this session is all about CPD, why it's important for members of professional bodies to record CPD. And we'll also be touching on the actual requirements for CIISec members to provide CPD going forward. So I won't waste any more time, and I'll hand you over to Kevin and Marie. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom, and very good to be with everyone today. So obviously Kevin Streater, I'm the COO, and hopefully you can see from my post-nominals, member of a number of professional bodies, so been very well versed in CPD for a number of years and do it for a number of organisations, including CIISec. Marie, would you like to do a quick intro?
Yeah, Marie Herbert-White, head of CPD, as Dom said. Been with CIISec for 12 years in various roles, covering membership accreditation through to running the ICDIP, and now that's been fully incorporated, took on the role of this continuing professional development, and also we'll be looking at training accreditation going forward.
Great, thank you. So presentation today, two very different parts. I'm going to do a general introduction to why CPD is important, and some of the experiences that I've had that fed into this program. And then Marie's going to take over and go into the specifics of what are we actually looking for the CPD activities for CIISec in particular. So let's get started. What is continuing professional development? It's really about getting current and staying current. People that work in regulated sectors, got an example here like solicitors or barristers or doctors, are continually assessed for their professional competence. Now, that's a one-time activity when you do accreditation. When you first become a member, then you're assessed for your competency at that point. But how do we know that you maintain your competency? And that's really where professional development comes in. I've taken this from the CPD Standards Office, and they say anyone who wants to demonstrate their compliance with professional and ethical standards should be undertaking some form of continuing professional development. But it's not just something that is required or preferred. It actually has a lot of benefit for you as an individual, as a professional in a constantly changing industry. So CPD is about keeping your knowledge and skills up to date. We're living in the world of cyber. It's changing every day. We all know that. How do you make sure that what you're talking about to your your colleagues, your customers, your clients is current, because that's the worst thing, is to go into a meeting, have a discussion with another professional, and you're out of date. You need to maintain your competence. You can do this through a whole range of things. So you can maintain your qualifications, you can do professional registration, you can go on training courses. They're all ways to help you develop your career and ultimately help you to advance and reach higher levels and reach your career goals. It's very good for employers because it helps them know that their employees have reached a certain standard, and that the standards are high and consistent and well maintained. And it helps you be more engaged with your role, with what you're doing. It's just a good thing to be doing. So CPD is good for everybody. It should be one of those no-brainer activities that you just go, yep, CPD is really important. It's part of my role. I need to engage with this. So there's one model that I like a lot. There's a model with CITP, Chartered IT Professional. It's about assessing that your current role, that you've reached a certain level of competence and that you're maintaining your competence. And CITP particularly does this really well. It does an initial assessment, and then you have a certificate of current competence. And your startership is only valid if you have a certificate of current competence. It makes it very explicit that you need to maintain that. And that certificate of current competence has a date on it. And every 5 years, you have to renew it to show that you're competent. That's a very, it's a well-structured, forced way of making sure that everyone is doing CPD. But it's really good in its intent. And that's what we should be all looking at, is undertaking professional development constantly so that we know that we've got our own virtual certificate of current competence, that we can say, yeah, our membership at CIISec, our fellowship at CIISec, we are competent professionals working in the cyber industry. CPD can take lots of forms. When I first start talking to people about CPD, they often say, oh, I've got to attend a lot of training courses. You don't. Most learning is informal. It's challenges that you've come across where you've had to go away and read a new standard, or review a paper that somebody's written, or watch a video that a vendor's produced. It comes from interaction with customers, colleagues, suppliers, professionals from other disciplines. That's CPD. All of that is learning. It's all about learning and growing continuously in your professional skills. It can be supplemented by structured activities. So courses, distance learning programs, private study. I constantly, every few years, I go back, and I used to work for the Open University. I go back and do another Open University module. That's structured learning, but that isn't the core of what CPD is about. CPD is largely informal. It happens in the course of your day-to-day activities. So there's two very distinct types of recognition. I'd say the first is academic and technical. I group them together because actually they're very different, but they're quite related. There's a lot of academic qualifications around for cyber, for general topics in our domain, risk. They all serve a very good purpose, but the one thing they don't demonstrate is your professional competence. They do teach you an awful lot about how things work, how you approach things, just the mental models you're working with. Apprenticeships do the same. They're a combination of academic and technical. And then a lot of industry specific professional certifications. In the cybersecurity world, we are awash with professional certifications, but none of them actually are really checking professional competence. Competence is when you can actually apply the skills unsupported to achieve meaningful outcomes. So these are all great. They all have a place. They all help us build our knowledge, but they are not recognition of competence. Professional membership is. Professional recognition is a check on, are you a competent professional? Usually conducted by peer assessment, mostly with interview, and it comes in lots of different forms. It could be a membership of a professional body. So CIISec is a good example. IET is another example. It could be something that's come from the UK Cybersecurity Council. They are all competence-based assessments. So things like the Chartered Cybersecurity Professional or Principal. Engineering Council have a whole range of professional recognitions, so things like Incorporated and Chartered Engineer. And there are others with a lot of other professional bodies. I put one here, Chartered Manager, for example, because I'm a cyber specialist and a manager, and I hold Chartered Manager. Totally different professional body, but very complementary to the role I fulfill. This is what we're really looking at with CPD, is professional recognition. How do we know that you're a professional, and how do we know that you're continuing to be a professional? Hopefully most of you have come across the PDCA cycle at some point. It appears in a lot of ISO standards. It's just the deeming cycle's very useful. It's just, what are you planning to do? What's the path you want to undertake? How do you make sure that you're maintaining the competence that you're aiming for? And how do you make sure that you bring yourself back into competence if you've drifted away from it? That's one way of looking at it. Something that I find quite helpful, because it's so specific, is a 3-stage process. And the first stage here is the most important: review. What are your learning objectives? What do you think you need to know more about? So in today's world, what do you want to know more about where you feel like you're getting slightly behind in your personal understanding? So you need to identify some personal learning objectives. And then for each objective, you need to think about what type of activity will help you achieve that objective. It could be a podcast, it could be a conference, it could be reading a white paper. So a lot of it will be informal learning. Very little of it is likely to be formal training courses. But as long as you know what your learning objectives are for the year, then you know what you're looking for. The second stage is recording. And this is really just keeping notes. What did you do? When did you do it? And which of your learning objectives did it apply to? So a good approach to this is just to have and post it on your desk with your learning objectives for the year, saying, I want to learn more this year about X, Y, and Z. And then you can say, actually, is this conference going to be worth going to? Well, let's check against my learning objectives and see if it's going to help me progress one of those. Yeah, yes, it will. Right, I think that'd be an event worth going to. You then need to just do a bit of assessment. Did the activity meet the objective? So, for example, you come to CIISec Live and you wanted to learn a bit more about secure testing. Did you learn what you wanted to learn from that event? Can you evidence the activity? So just think about, why am I going? What are these events trying to help me with? Have I had discussions with colleagues? Have I had discussions in networking forums where actually I've progressed my learning in that area that I'd set out? If so, you can just make a quick note that you've done that. That's all part of your CPD record. The final stage is reflection. At the end of a year, so a CPD cycle over a year, just reflect back on whether you have fully or partly met your learning objectives. Now, there's some good exemplars around, but 2 to 3 learning objectives for the year is perfectly adequate. That sets out a nice pattern of what you want to achieve. At the end of the year, you can say, have I either fully or partly met this? Did the activities that I've noted down help me meet these objectives? Has it helped you improve your practice? Do you feel like you've recovered your competence? You've maintained your competence? Have you identified other learning objectives? Certainly something I come across a lot is you undertake an activity, you go to an event, and it triggers a thought, and you think, I really need to go and find out a lot more about that. Well, that's the start of your learning objectives for the next cycle. Did you find activities that were suitable? Did you find challenges in finding the right activities? In which case, certainly in the cyber domain, let us know. They're quite possibly things that CIISec can help you with, and we might be able to provide additional information and from amongst all the members that we've got around these topics. And can the range and availability of CPD activities be improved? So if you're not undertaking a lot of different types of activity, then could you add something else into the mix? Because that would then really help you with your CPD development. So review, record, reflect. Very simple approach to CPD. If you do this consistently, it just becomes part of your everyday routine and everyone benefits from this. And I know some people like to have really good examples. Well, one of the best examples I've come across is from the Bar Standards Board. They work with complex topics. They've all got very specific domains, very challenging to learn more about it. Some of the template examples on this website are really helpful. They're also very short. They're very succinct. It just said, what were you trying to achieve for the year? What was your learning objective? What activities have you done? And have those activities helped you meet the requirements? So if you really want to look at what a fantastic good example of regular CPD looks like, then the exemplars from the Bar Standards Board is a really good place to go. So hopefully that gives you a feel about why CPD, why it's important. We are all doing it even if we don't know it. Every interaction we're doing that is relevant to our role, our interest, is part of CPD. We now need to move on to looking at CIISec specific requirements for the CPD programme. So Marie, I'm going to hand over to you for the second part.
Yep, thank you, Kevin. Hopefully I'm now in a position to move the slides along, she says, hopefully.
No, no, you're not. I'm going to have to move them for you.
All right, okay, not a problem. Next slide then, please, Kevin. Right, so I wanted to start off with just doing a bit of a review of what our requirements are before I go into a little bit more detail. It's in these are next couple of tables are taken directly from the guidance document that has been sent out, and so all members should have this, but I think it's important just to go through and reiterate some of the actual requirements. So all accredited members are required to do CPD at this point going forward. Anybody who's associate, full or fellow, we're looking for a minimum of 25 hours over the annual period. Accredited affiliates is 10 hours. Now, it's been quite a useful exercise just going out to some of the members, because I've got quite a few people who've actually advised me that they're retired. So obviously now we do have members at those levels, but we've got them as retired members, which is great that they're staying on with us. So obviously their CPD requirements are less. So obviously that's there. Student and affiliates. We will be looking to ensure that going forward, students and affiliates will be reading and agreeing to our code of conduct and ethics. That's category 1. They haven't been asked to do that as yet, but that's the next stage of bringing this forward. For all membership levels at the accredited level, we are looking for the CPD to be completed 2 months prior to their membership lapse. But we are also saying that if you've actually done those 25 hours, which I'm sure some people will complete in no time at all, then you can submit your form earlier. We also have members who upgrade during their annual period. So again, we'll be looking for members, if you've upgraded, we will be looking for your CPD to be at the higher level. So if you were an accredited affiliate and you've now upgraded to an associate member or gone to a full member, or you've gone from affiliate to full, then we will be looking for you to now do that CPD at that higher level for your first year. And obviously, having achieved that, you will have done some CPD in being able to obtain that higher level of membership. Next slide, please, Kevin. So again, we've done something a bit different in the fact that we've identified mandatory requirements. So we have 2 mandatory requirements for the CPD, and that is Category 1 and Category 2. Now, Category 1, as I've already mentioned, is the Code of Conduct and Ethics. We believe that annually everybody should be reminding themselves of what this is and signing up to it. We also have members who are have gone through the council to achieve their professional registration in a specialism, and there are also ethics relating to that. So again, we're asking that that is a mandatory requirement, that on an annual basis that you go through that. We also require 2 hours against Category 2. Now, I will go into the categories a little bit more as we go along, but we are looking for at least 2 hours of your CPD each year to directly relate to our Category 2, which is the essential skills that we've now brought in for membership applications. So there are 5 of them, which is A2, which is policy and standards, A6, which is legal and regulatory environment and compliance, B2, which is risk management, G1, data protection, and G2, privacy. And for the specialisms held, there are 3 of those currently that we do, and they'll be mentioned later. But again, if you hold a specialism, or you hold more than one specialism, then we will be looking for you to provide evidence of 2 hours against each of those specialisms. Because this CPD is what we're using for your registration and with the council as well. So if the council asks us, we can show that you've done your hours relating to your specialism. We don't ask you to fill in 2 forms though, because the expectation is a lot of the other evidence that you're going to have on your CPD form will just be duplicated. So that's why I'm being particular about saying that we are looking for 2 hours for each of those to be put on that Category 2 area. And I should say that you don't have to cover all of the essential skills either. We are looking for just one, maybe 2 of the essential skills to be covered. So whilst we've listed 5, we're looking for you just to provide evidence at least against one of those for 2 hours. And then again, as I said, for the professional registrations, it's 2 hours against each specialism held. Next slide, please.
Just in case anyone's not clear, the codes relate to the CIISec skills framework if you want to look up the detail of what's behind each of these.
Sorry, that's me expecting people to have knowledge. And again, this slide just is reiterating that Category 1 is mandatory, Category 2 is also mandatory, but Categories 3 to 6 are additional. However, we do require you to provide evidence against 3 categories. So you've got your 2 mandatory ones, and then you choose one of the other 4 categories that are available. Next slide. So what are the categories? How do we break them down a little bit more? So as I said, all of this is taken from the guidance, and all I'm doing here is just reiterating and going over. But what I should put up here is the fact that we are looking for minimum and maximum hours. At the end of the day, we're looking for 25 hours. We're not looking for points, it's hours. So the Code of Conduct and Ethics, the expectation is that it won't take you an hour. If you're reading 2 of them, it'll probably take you 20 minutes to half an hour to read, digest, and everything like that. But we're saying a maximum of an hour. The CIISec essential skills and all the professional registration specialisms require a minimum of 2 hours. That's our 2 mandatory ones. And so straight away, that's your 3 hours accounted for. Volunteering. We're looking at a maximum of 20 hours there. I appreciate that a lot of our members when they're helping with us with assessments, interviewing, speaking at events, just generally on workshops, helping us with white papers, with all the stuff that we do. We'll probably do more than the 20 hours. We're just looking for a maximum of 20 to be claimed against that. The same for category 4, which is development, which is role related. So I'll go into a bit more detail there, but that's all the other skills that come from the skills framework. Management, leadership, business and communications, a maximum 10 hours. Again, that's going to be opened up for whether you've gone on courses, whether you're doing meetings and various different areas for that category. And then events and conferences relating cyber, digital and information security, a maximum of 10 hours. Again, I'll cover that, but as we've said earlier, you know, these are just an idea. At the end of the day, we only need you to cover 25 hours. So when we're saying we don't want to see more, you don't need to provide, we don't need to see more than 25 hours. The average coming in at the moment for people that I've seen on forms, the average is probably around 40 to 50 that people are submitting. That's double what we're needing. And there have been some that have had a lot more than that on their CPD. And all I will say is the more hours you put in there, the more things that you list. When it comes to if you are audited, you will need to validate those. So just think about what you really want to be able to claim and what you're claiming and how much. Category 1 there, because these slides will be shared, I've put in links. So category 1, the CIISec Code of Ethics, Conduct and Ethics is there. The link is there for you, so you'll be able to do that. And again, if applicable, the Cybersecurity Council's link is there for one that everybody should be reading if they've got a specialism under the council. Next slide, please. I appreciate this is a little bit small, but I thought it would be useful because it's we're using a Microsoft form, and the current problem is that you see part 1 and you can't get past this to get to part 2 to have an understanding of what you might need to be doing. And sometimes people just need to have a visual of what there is and what's needed. So part 1, it's all about you. It's information about you and your membership, just so that we can check that we've got the right details and various things like that. So email address that's registered with CIISec, that's the one on your profile. The membership ID, I've had quite a few people struggling with this one. It is on your certificate. And we are working to ensure that we include that membership number going forward in emails, and when we do some upgrades, it's something that we'll be looking to ensure is easier to find on your profile. But it is a six numbers, basically. A lot of them start with 11 or 2 something. So that's the number that you'll be looking for. Then it's just confirming your membership grade, because again, we have the different levels. So at the moment, the accredited affiliate, as I mentioned earlier, we're only doing 10 hours, associate, full and fellow are 25. So it's just highlighting that so that it's a quick, easy check for us going through. Do you hold a professional registration with the UK Cyber Security Council? That's a yes, no answer. So if you choose yes, it'll then go to question 6. If you choose no, you will then go straight to question 7, which is entering the start date for your CPD period. Now, we are looking at an annual period. I've sort of said that we're looking for it to receive it a couple of months before your lapse date in your membership. So if your lapse date is, say, April 2025, then the period that I'd be looking for you to do it up to would be to February 25. So that sort of period, so 12 months prior. It just helps us to, again, get into a cycle that's when you're doing it. Hopefully that's an easy start and end date there, period. So next slide, please. Part 2, this is where you can't see it until you get to it, basically, if you've completed all the other parts. So basically, again, the first one is you are putting a date in to confirm when you read the Code of Conduct and Ethics. The next one is you're now starting to put in your hours for your different categories. And obviously category 2 next is the mandatory one. You won't be able to go past this one if you don't enter 2 hours in there. There are some where these have got like they are mandatory for you to put a figure or a number in. So again, for category 2, you can't progress past not putting something in that field. At the moment, it's just our way of doing that. And as I said, as we progress and change and look for an online way, things will change. But for now, using the Microsoft form, this was the easiest way to ensure that we were getting the detail that we needed. Then it's category 3. Again, even if you haven't done anything for that, we will expect you to put a 0 in there. It's just so that we can see going forward which ones you're claiming against quite quickly. Then it's entering details, and it's the same for the rest going forward. Next slide, please. So again, exactly the same. And then at the very end, I'm afraid I need you to add up your total of the whole number of hours that you've done. Microsoft Forms isn't helpful in actually being able to do that, or at least I haven't found a way. If somebody knows how to, then please let me know and I will update the form accordingly. And then it's just entering your name to confirm that everything you've put in that form is true to the best of your knowledge. So the fields are quite large. As I was advised earlier by somebody, you can get about 700 words in them. So hopefully that should be sufficient to get enough details in there to cover each of the categories and your evidence to support it. Next slide, please.
Just to add here that we're not looking for essays. We're just looking for what was, as I was saying earlier, what was the learning objective you set yourself, and just a brief summary of the activity and what you've taken away from it. It's not a large onerous task. It's just, if we want to do an audit, we'll ask for the detail. This just say, did you set yourself some learning objectives? Have you undertaken some activities? Have you taken something away from it? So many people say to me that I need to set aside a day to fill in my CPD form. Well, you don't. You need to set aside an hour or two just to go through your notes, summarize your notes, and into some brief summaries here.
Yeah, I should have said that on average, I've already said what the hours were, but on average, these are taking about 30 minutes to complete. Yeah. 30 to 40 minutes, and it is depending on how much detail people are putting in. And I do have a couple of examples going in the next couple of slides that will also help on that. So next slide, please. So again, this is just a reiteration of the fact that category 2 relates to the CIISec essential skills available from the skills framework, and that is a link to that skills framework. And then there's specialisms that are obtainable through CIISec, which ones we will be expecting people to provide detail for, excuse me. And again, there's a link there to the relevant page from the council. And I think that's all I'm going to say on that one. It was just a reminder. So as Kevin mentioned earlier, cyber doesn't stand still. Nor does cyber digital information security. And therefore, I just had a quick look. To be fair, I looked at a few people's CPD forms that they'd submitted, and I also had a quick check of some of the bits of to find out when they were actually released and things like that. But there are some policy standards and legal regulations that have been issued in the last 12 months. There's even a policy paper that's been published in January 25. All of those will cover your category 2. If you've had to, in your day job, refer to any of those, keep yourself up to speed with any of them, then those are there. It's not it's not hard to get CPD under this sort of category. The NCSC have guidance, and again, there's just 4 or 5 listed there that I found quite quickly. LinkedIn is a wonderful source as well for finding things from different security forums. And of course, there's also CIISec as well with the various things that we do through our papers and etc. So I just wanted to say that these are some of the things that you probably are doing in your day job. You're reading some of this, you're keeping up to date with some of this and others. And therefore, you know, that's all helps towards category 2. Next slide, please. And here are a couple of examples for, now I did ask the individuals if I could show you their and include their detail in this presentation, but quite clearly you'll see there that somebody's done something for activity A2 and activity A6, they've listed and they've identified what the learning outcome is. The second example is very similar again, but it's done in a more succinct way. So both are good examples of what has been achieved for category 2. So it's just to show you that, you know, it's how much detail you want to put in there. Category 3, as I said, is volunteering. There's a wealth of things that you could do for volunteering. It doesn't just have to be for a professional body like CIISec. You know, it could be in the workplace, doing mentoring, giving back to the community, doing something with schools, working with small businesses where you're actually not being paid to do something, you're just doing it because maybe you've got that interest in that specific organization or that community hub or etc. So just think about, you know, how you can help in and where that covers those. Category 4, this is role related, so it's again, it's what you do in your day job. So some of the category 2 examples can also be used in category 4 because you're actually doing it as something related to your role. Category 5 is basically the soft skills. So Kevin mentioned project management, those sort of things, those sort of all come under in this sort of area. So if you've done a project management course or you've updated yourself on some skills around there, it also relates to the J skills within the skills framework. And then category 6, events and conferences relating to cyber, digital and information security. You know, we haven't actually defined the capacity in which you attend. So this category could be used to cover if you're speaking or presenting, which isn't necessarily covered under some of the categories above. So, you know, we're not being prescriptive as to what it is. In some of these categories, it's for you to decide what you feel is relevant. All we're looking for is you to detail something and tell us that you had a learning outcome from it, and that ultimately over the 6 categories that we've got, you've done 25 hours of CPD. And I think the way I looked at it when Kevin and I were preparing this, that's somewhere in the region of 2 hours a month. And then you've got then you'll redo the code of ethics, which is you're doing annually. So, you know, it's not an onerous task, although probably a lot of people feel filling a form in is onerous. But as I said, actually achieving the CPD, it's just trying to remember to record it as you go along. Next slide, please. And this is a couple of ideas for category 4. Again, just, you know, a category 4 and a category 6 examples. Again, the individuals have allowed me to use their examples, which I appreciate. So, you know,
the last one on this page is quite relevant. CIISec Live.
Yes.
Coming on to that, that's 7 or 8 hours done straight off in category 6. One event. So we're trying to help make it easy for you.
Yeah. And then next slide, please. So again, category 6, it's you know, we've said it's not all about training courses, it's not all about events, but again, I've just had a quick look through and just identified some events that are coming up. You know, CIISec is open to members from many organizations, but cyber is there. So there's a rail cybersecurity conference in London. There's a CISO inspired summits and events. There's digital policing conferences, that, you know, there's Forensic Europe. So there's all sorts there, and that list is not exhaustive, but I thought, having had a quick check through some of our members and some of the events, I would just list some of the ones that are coming up in the future, just in case you might be interested in thinking, oh, I didn't know about that one. And of course, next slide, please, Kevin. You have to do a plug for CIISec Live. If you haven't already, here is the date, 25th of November. Put it in your calendars now. And Dom, who did the introduction, he'll be taking any, following up with any interest that you may have with regard to getting involved, whether that is speaking, sponsoring or collaborating. And again, remember, if you're speaking, then that is going to count towards your CPD. Next slide, please, Kevin. So I'm going to this is my last but one slide, I think, but frequently asked questions. I think Kevin touched on my first one, but this is a genuine question that came in, and it was my genuine reply to that individual. Everyone's got a demanding workload. Everyone struggles to complete CPD, but when I went back, I said that you've done it without even realizing. And when the person actually completed their form, they actually came back and said, I didn't realize I'd done as much as I had. So once I'd gone back and just identified some of the things that they've been keeping up to date with doing in their day job, helping, mentoring people, they suddenly realized that they'd easily covered the 25 hours. So everyone wants to know, can I use what I do for ISARCA, ISC squared, etc., which is over 120 hours over the 3 years? Yes, you can. But I think the difference is that for us, we obviously have the category 1 and 2, so those have to be relevant. I'm sure those could be transferred across, but remember, we are looking for a learning outcome. And I don't know that you always have to record that with those. And again, I've
Just
already meant into the last one.
Yeah, I was going to say on the middle one here, the reason we're asking you to fill in our form is just to assess against what you originally assessed against. So your original accreditation as a member or a fellow or accredited affiliate of CIISec was conducted to assess your competence at that point. We just need to know that you're still competent in those areas that we're looking at. So we use the CIISec skills framework. We just need to know that everything is aligning against the CIISec skills framework. Obviously, I showed at the beginning, I'm a member of a number of different professional bodies. Each one's looking for slightly different requirements to make sure that for management, I'm actually conducting some management CPD. For cyber, I'm doing some cyber CPD. A lot of activities I do are relevant for both, but in some cases they won't be. So it's not a case of we're forcing you to do something completely different. It's just put a statement in to say how the CPD you've been doing relates to the CIISec skills framework and helps you maintain your professional accreditation with CIISec.
Yeah, next slide.
I think we decided who was doing this, but the big takeaways are: think about what you're trying to achieve. What I was saying earlier about planning, plan. Think about your learning before you try and do CPD, because then the rest of it will be easy. Set out your learning objectives for your CPD early. Think about what are the 2 or 3 things you'd like to focus on for the year ahead. As we've both been saying, without realizing it, you're probably doing more CPD than you need. And this isn't a test. We just want to help you maintain your professional competence. It's an easy process. We're only going to ask for detail if you're subject to an audit. We do dip sampling for an audit. Cybersecurity Council, we have to. We will be doing that occasionally, but it's not a test. It's just to check that what you're putting on your submissions are good and valid, and you can validate what you've done. And it's only 25 hours, and it is all about maintaining your competence. You don't want to be out of date if you're a professional, and surely you'd like to make sure you're maintaining your competence. That's what good CPD is all about. So hopefully that gives you some insight into our thinking about CPD, what the requirements are for CIISec, and more specifically, how you fill the form in without stressing over it. It is very straightforward, and a lot of it you should be able to copy and paste from other things if you've been doing other CPD. If this is your only CPD submission, great, then just use the form. But most of it you should be able to take from elsewhere. But it gives us confidence that you are maintaining your professionalism and that you're still capable and worthy of carrying the post-nominals that CIISec has awarded you. So
Just
with
just
that,
one other
sorry.
thing. Just one other thing. Whatever you do ensure that you maintain and keep records, because if we do audit you, we will be looking for you to provide some of those details. So we will be looking for evidence to back up your claims. We won't be auditing everybody, but there will be some auditing happening. So just please be aware. You know, in my article that I did in the January newsletter, I think I was saying about ensuring that you know, suggesting you create a spreadsheet and where you have those things, and if you're doing it in Excel, you can link across to wherever you save that supporting document. I see someone's asked if they could have a Word version of the document. You've got the details in this presentation now. There's nothing to stop you from creating that, but I would recommend an Excel spreadsheet because it's going to be easier. You can create the different tabs and then just do a cut and paste across into it, or a Word table, whichever way.
Kevin, Marie, thank you so much for that presentation. That was really interesting. I had a few questions popping through the Q&A chat.
Yeah.
If anyone else has any more, please use the Q&A function. So Colin's just asked, how long after submitting the CPD form should people expect to receive confirmation, and what form is that confirmation?
So at this moment in time, as you can imagine, I've got a lot in. So the confirmation of receipt, I will hold my hands up, I haven't been doing. The fact that they've submitted it means that it's been recorded. If you haven't, I'm chasing up more the people who haven't submitted than the people who have. It's something I've got to get a handle on. So people have emailed me and I've confirmed receipt. At this moment in time, I can do a block email to tell people that I've received it.
Right.
That's that'll be my way forward.
Richard's asked if he has a course booked between his CPD submission date and his lapse dates, can he include that preemptively, or does it need to roll into next year's CPD, that window of the 2 months?
It's next year's CPD. If he hasn't actually been on it and done it, then it is next year's CPD, because by that point he will have completed it and will have had that knowledge and learning. He hasn't had that knowledge and learning prior to attending.
It's about reflecting. You need to do the activity and then think about how it's helped you, how you're able to apply it. That only comes after you've done the event.
Okay. Richard's asked for the contribution to the community. How do we record hours spent as a technical editor for a published book which crossed the year boundary? Only include the hours spent in the reporting window?
That's how I do it. Is just split it by year. Because I have to do CPD submissions for multiple organisations. I just keep a record of what date start and end dates and roughly how that's split if it goes across like a month or a year boundary, so I can allocate it the right way. But yeah, you'd split it according to your membership. Yeah.
Okay. Louis asked, can I save what I've been doing on the form and then come back to it later? Right.
No, unfortunately not. As I said, this is not our final form, and unfortunately it's a nuance of Microsoft Forms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, just bear with me, there's more coming through.
Yeah.
Any questions that we don't get to on this session, we will come back to you post call. To be honest, that was that same question. So I think we're probably okay for questions, to be honest.
Yeah. I'll just say on the forms, this is sort of formally putting back into place something that all professional bodies should be doing. We are looking at a better online system going forward to make this even easier, so we can do things like, so you can just drop in a spreadsheet from something you've done for another organisation. You can save it and resume it. That's on our agenda for this year, to look at that, getting that in place. But for now, we're using the Microsoft Forms. But all of those, it will be a lot more. user-friendly as we go forward.
That kind of answers a question that Steve just posted about a sort of dashboard type approach. Going forward, Tim's just asked, going forward, I will keep CPD records as recommended, but it isn't something I've done for the last year. Is this going to be an issue? He's saying that it's going to be due at the end of March.
And no, you should be able to go back through a whole range. Just think back through the last year of different things you've done, events you've attended, things you've done, and try and build a list of some of the activities you've done. And say a lot of it is informal. There should be plenty of CPD in what you've been doing over the past year. So just have a reflect back on what you've been doing, what you've read, what you've attended. Yes, you sometimes have to do a retrospective compilation. If at the end of that you still don't think you've had enough hours, then drop us an email and we'll see if we can help provide some advice on that. But I'd say nearly everybody that is working in a professional context will be doing at least 25 hours. It's a very low bar. It's just to say we just like to make sure that you actually are doing continual development. So if it really is a problem, then let us know. But just reflect back on what you've been doing for the last year. And again, ideally, think about what was your learning objective at the beginning? What were you hoping to learn over the past year? I could sit here and think back on that now and go, okay, so what was I trying to learn over the past year? What sort of things have I done to try and support that? That becomes quite a good CPD submission.
Okay, Kevin, Marie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you everybody for coming along. A recording of this webinar will be available probably by the end of next week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.